up in Gorgie at Tynecastle Park. There's a wee football team that I makes its mark. They've won all the honours in footballing art. There's no other team to compare with our heart. F-E-A-M-E-S. If you can't spell it, then here's what it says. Heart, heart, glorious heart. It's down at Tynecastle they ride. The talk of the town are the boys in my room. And all three.
Okay, folks, boom, boom, boom. Everyone say Jambo. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone say Jambo. You're as daft as me. Good afternoon. Right, I'm your company with us here this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I see the kids in today, so we're going to keep it clean. Is that all right? Need dirty stuff today. As the banana says to the vibrator, I don't know what you're shaking for. She's going to eat me. Eventually. So I'm not doing that stuff. Well, I'm going to do a wee bit for everybody later on. I'm going to do a wee bit for the girls, for the young, the children, the kids, and for the older generation. And just to give you a for example, the ladies, I came in there about 10 minutes ago and I'm looking about the club. I didn't have much chance to look about, but I'm looking about the club and it reminds me another old folks home that I was working in last week. I was working at an old folks home in Fife last week. I'm quite famous in Fife. I was at the door, there was an old woman standing there. I says to her, "Oh, missus," I said, "do you know who I am?" She says, "No, son, that's the matron, she'll tell you." And this is for the girls, by the way, no pictures please, for security reasons, social security reasons, if you don't mind. Thanks, David. This is for the girls. Girls, I was an old folks home, that's right enough. There was an old woman sat here, I went in to see her, I says, "How are you getting on?" She says, "Aye, alright, Jimmy." I says, "Do you have any complaints?" She says, "No really, Jimmy, no." She says, "Well, to tell you the truth, son, the peas in the soup are a wee bit hard." I says, "Surely no." Ladies and gentlemen, no, she did. She went into the cardigan, she brought out the wee lace hanky. Inside the hanky, boys, was a pea. She says, "Try that pea, Jimmy, I'm trying this pea." I says, "You're right enough, Mrs. Mackenzie, it's a wee bit on the hard side." And she said, "Well, you can imagine, Jimmy, how that felt when that passed through me this morning." So that's the kind of stuff I'll be doing. I'm glad to be doing it at the Masonic Club again. The last time I was working in Edinburgh, my motor broke down. I asked this fella for some jump leads. He gave me 3 phone numbers in Western Hills. Is there anything in the Western Hills? That's a pity. I was wanting a video recorder. I heard there's that many windows boarded up in Western Hills, the window cleaner's got a sander, is that right? Anyway folks, I'll be seeing you later on. Without further ado, I was standing at the bar earlier on there. I says to the barman, I says, "I was here last week." He says, "I'm serving as fast as I bloody can." Oh dear. They want me, the big fella doing Elvis here, brilliant, eh? One of my favourite singers, Elvis. Him and Sidney Devine. What? I worked with Sidney Devine 3 years ago at a place in Fife called Bohill Miners Welfare. There were folk went down the pit that night that didn't even work there. He was that bad, they were still doing him when I was on. Now before I bring Robert on, remember when I first came on here, I says, "I'm going to do a wee bit for everybody." Remember I says that? Now this is for the kids. Kids, any children that are in today, try this with your teacher on Monday morning when you go to your school. It's a quick impression. Children, this is an impression. Are you watching? An Irishman pulling up his socks. You watching, kids? An Irishman pulling up his socks. Pulls up that sock. Well, thanks for Gentlemen, Clark, I thought you were handcuffed for a minute there, you know. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mr. Robin Beath, Vice Chairman of the Federation of Park Supporters Club. Robin. Thank you, Jim. Jimmy Sterling. See you later. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the formal part of the afternoon, where we make the Player of the Year presentation. So I'd like the Chairman of the Federation of Supporters Club, Mr. Tom Watson, to come up here, accompanied by our Honourary Vice President, Gary Mackay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Federation does the Player of the Year slightly different from every other club. Ours is a calendar year, 1996. Now, 1996 was a good year for Hearts. We reached 2 cup finals. Unfortunately, we didn't win anything. But it was a year when several new faces appeared on the scene. Plus, we had a lot of youngsters who actually established themselves in the team and become regular first-team players. And we also had foreign players come into our team. Now, the foreign legion, one of them actually won our Player of the Year trophy. It was a member of the French Foreign Legion. Mr. Gilles Rousset is the Player of the Year.
From the Federation of Supporters Club, we're presenting Gilles with a television and video recorder. So, Gilles, I hope you enjoy it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know Gary came along here today to make this presentation to Gilles. And just before we go any further, Gary, happy Gilles, thanks very much for coming here today. Thanks very much for coming along here today. But in fact, we're all here today, Gilles included, to pay a tribute to you because Gary Mackay, this is your life. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Gary, before Gilles goes, tell me, Gilles, are you missing Gary already?
To be honest, no.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Gilles Rousset.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
To say Gary looks astonished is understatement. Well, Gary, you were born in Edinburgh on 23rd of January 1964. Your parents, Peter and Sandra Mackay. As a toddler, you learned to kick a ball at your Nana Munro's house at Hutchison. In fact, your first opponent was your great-grandmother, Granny Bell. And I dare say a few of the lads today would say you still play like an old woman now. Before you were in school, there was one occasion when Sammy Keane of Hibs fame, or notoriety, gave you a couple of hours individual coaching whilst you were on a visit to Dunbar with your dad. Sammy worked on developing your control with your left peg, never allowing you to kick it with your right foot. And as Vicky, your good lady, would testify, you have a particular affinity with left fitters to this day. At 3 years of age, you were first taken to Town Castle by Jimmy Monroe, your mum's dad. And from there on, you became a Hearts supporter, in spite of the bad influence at home in the shape of your dad, Peter, whose football affinities lay somewhere in the east of the city. Peter says here, and I quote, "Gary never played with toys. The only thing he ever touched was a ball." And his mum Sandra says, "Even from an early age, I always felt that he was destined to be in the public eye." And I'd like to call on Peter and Sandra to come up here now, please. Tell me, Peter, what are your memories of Friday nights prior to games with Gary?
Friday night we used to go to the Hearts Club in McLeod Street, and we were always warned before we left, don't bring anybody back. I must get to bed at 8 o'clock, and if you come back, naturally you're going to have a party. So he says, remember, don't bring anybody back. And that was always a thing that happened.
Sorry, thank you, Peter. And tell me also, Peter, have you got a story to tell about Alan Finlay and what got to his car?
Oh yeah. Alan Finlay, a former player of the Hearts, going back years ago, he had got a job with BP and Shell, and he was presented with a beautiful white Corsair car. Gary, Sandra and myself went down to Alan's one Sunday morning, and it was coincidental, Alan was painting his fence green. So naturally when I arrived, they asked me to come in for a drink, and we left Gary and his son outside. When we went out about half an hour later, the white Corsair was painted green. And that was Gary.
Thank you, Peter. Sandra, I would like a big hand of applause for them, please. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Vicky and the family to come and join Gary on stage. Well, Gary, your primary school days were spent at Ball Green Primary, and it's a well-known fact that you captained the football team to great success. You also showed great prowess at rugby. Sorry. You also showed great prowess at rugby, and you were to star on the wing for Ball Green in the Harriets mini rugby tournament. Unfortunately, your team lost narrowly to the much-fancied eventual winners, Harriets, in the semi-finals. Remembered with affection at Ball Green, you have always been very supportive of the school during your time with Hearts. Ella Tollervey, the former deputy head teacher, recalls, a helpful, charming, bright and athletic boy, the very best type of Ball Green pupil. Whilst at Ball Green, your ability came to the attention of those in charge of the Edinburgh Primary School select team. You were the obvious choice to captain the side, and according to Tom Roseborough, former secretary and president of the Edinburgh Primary School Sports Association, you did so in an exemplary manner, and providing an excellent role model to other players both on and off the pitch. On the 20th of May 1976 at Rosebery Park, Glasgow, on a memorable evening, you lifted the Wilson Trophy, which is the equivalent of the Scottish Cup for primary schools, on behalf of a side including David Bowman, John Robertson, I recognise that name, and Gordon Marshall. I'd like to introduce at this stage Tom Rosebery, please. tell us some of your memories about Gary, please?
I'll go back before the Edinburgh school team, because earlier on that season I took what was an excellent team from Morden School over to Saughton to play in the School Board Cup, hoping to get a place in the semi-final. We had an excellent team, but unfortunately Bob Green had one difference. They had Gary Mackay field with leadership, skill and hard work. We were narrowly defeated, and shortly after, when I was invited to become a selector and coach with the Edinburgh team, Gary's name was first on the list. He was first on the team sheet forever after. One little footnote, like his father, I wasn't a Hearts fan either. I wasn't Hibs either, but I'm not going to say who. But when Gary broke through into the reserves at Tynecastle, I started going along to give him a bit of support and watch the other boys who had made the grade. And before you know it, I was hooked. And season ticket holder, regular attender. So Gary is to blame for all these miserable Saturday nights.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. On leaving Ballgreen Primary, Gary, you enrolled at Tynecastle High School, and in your 4 years at Tynecastle, the team you captained never lost a league match. Indeed, in that time, only 5 games were lost by the team. In 1977, one game you lost in which you did not play, and the Edinburgh Cup final was another one against a David Bowman and John Robertson-inspired Portobello High School side. In 1978, you lost in the Scottish Cup final to Kenny Black's Labrador High. In 79, you lost in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup against Lewis. And in 1980, in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup against Perth. You captained Tynecastle and Edinburgh schoolboys sides. You led the Edinburgh team to the 1979 Under-15 Scottish Cup win. The squad included David Bowman, Ian Westwater, Gordon Marshall and Scott Maxwell. And John Sutherland, the principal teacher of the physical education at Tynecastle High, remembers you as a smashing laddie. They didn't come any better. John, you here today?
Well, when I was growing up in Liverpool, I was always really an Airdrie supporter. I'm just as emotional as Gary. I can only remember Gary crying once, and that was the Under-14 Scottish final. And he was me alone and crying that night. My wife will tell him, when I got home I was crying as well. So you will alone, sir. When teams come to Tynecastle, Mr. S usually gets the under-13s, because there's usually a chance there's a few smaller than him that take that team. But when I saw that team, I had to keep them, and that was the happiest 4 years of my life, and I'll say that with no regrets, the happiest 4 years. One thing though, Gary didn't start as captain. There's a boy down there, Gary Burrow. He was captain for I think 3 games, and then Gary was daft enough to turn up late one morning, and he had to go sub that day, and Gary was captain ever since. So I can tell you 1 or 2 stories. One of my favourites was an Edinburgh trial, and we were looking for the Edinburgh team when Gary was under 15. We used to have the trials at Megaland. And unfortunately, I think 10 minutes into the game, this man got injured, and he couldn't play for the rest of the trial. So when time came to pick the team, there was a certain teacher, I think he's still a maths teacher in Midlothian, when we picked the team, he said, "What about this Mackay laddie? Do you think we should have another look at him?" And he'll never forget that remark, because George Fraser and I, we took the team that day. Gary didn't need a trial. He was in. This is your night, Gary. Thanks for 4 wonderful years and great memories, son. Thank you very much.
At Tynecastle, Gary, you met up with a boy who shared your early triumphs at schoolboy and juvenile level, by the name of Alan McPherson. Today he's your best pal and recalls the young Mackay as the best player I ever saw bar one. Myself. The happy memory is the League Cup final victory over Portobello High. Dave Bowman will think otherwise, he having been earlier asked to leave the field of play by the referee. Some things never change. You went on, Barrett, to score 4 goals, a taster for Scottish Cup glory in later years. At Salvation Boys Club with Alan and David and sometimes Robbo as teammates, you captained 5 Scottish Cup winning sides at under 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 level. And I'd like now, ladies and gentlemen, to ask Alan McPherson to come up to beat Gary. Gary also has the unique distinction of being the holder of 2 Willibald Memorial Club medals. One is a winning player in the under-14 Scottish Cup final, the other is a member of the Willibald Memorial Club, and he was capped at under-15 level for Scotland. Alan says of Gary, as a pal, Gary is different class. A great lad who is even better when he's had a sniff of 3 or 4 lager shandies. Alan, tell me, can you give us a wee story I heard in the dressing room about you and Gary driving a bus?
Any press here? Well, we were in Busters one night. We've been doing it cold around watching football. So we come back to Busters, come out of Busters, there's 2 buses sitting there. Gary, fudge. Bus is empty. We'll get on that, man. So we fires going in. And then it's 3 of us, James Callum. Can I make it a day's back shirt, East and Scottish? So away we go, in the bus. The driver didn't meant to be in the bus, he was in the bus in front. We overtook him, he's talking his name, man. That's my bus. So we're 5 along Princess Street. Guy says, we better stop. We'll pick up some punters, get some money. The bonus it hurts wasn't that good that time, but Wallace Mercer was in charge. So we get off the bus, 3 years, James disappears, Guy's got the white gear on, the wedge with the highlights. Hair dryer in the pocket as you can. So Jake to the Princess Street Gardens, I says, Guy, I worked in the railway at the time, I says, we'll go through the tunnel. Through the way of the tunnel at Haymarket, says, no danger. 3 lager shandies will be enough at a second. So we goes into the gardens, so Guy says, follow me, so bends up back where we stole the bus. Guy gets through the fence, come on, Fudge, hurry, Fudge, come on. So I get through, as soon as that, folk comes round the corner, police everywhere. Guy, I mean honestly, didn't he need to go to your bed for sprint training? I thought Paul Daniels was about to just disappear. So the police are everywhere, chasing me, Guy disappears. Police are playing help with me, trying to catch me. Which eventually do it, so I've been charged stealing £7,000 bus, unless you name your pal. We came you on the driveway because the boy had highlights in a way.
After Tom shot here, I think he's going to give us a song here. Thank you, Alan. At this juncture, Gary, I want to bring you back to and memorise a guy here who's I want to pay his tribute to you, and that's Ian Boobs Brown. Ian was the youth team coach in Hearts when Gary was there, ladies and gentlemen. I do believe when Willie Ormond was the manager, there was only one on the books, and that was Ian Westwater. I think Ian will have a couple of stories of his own to tell us from that era.
Well, had a couple of classics with this guy. You know, on a Saturday night you go home, you get the pink. Lockie's got a column in the pink, and I'm reading the column one night, and I had a wee laugh to myself. Go back to this guy's nickname, the janitor. He was never at the place. My wife used to think I was a vampire. 3 o'clock kick-off, I couldn't get to Tynecastle quick enough to get the gear on and waiting the guys coming in and get them organised to play. And I'm in and out the dressing room, checking the strips, bagging the herbs, 15 cups of coffee, 20 past 12, I looks in the corner, just to shit myself. He's sitting with the collar and tie on, 12:15 for a 3 o'clock kick-off. True story. I said, what the hell are you doing here, wee man? Just want to get on with it, you know. I said, that's the game. That just epitomised the guy's feeling for this wonderful club that we all support, the Heart of the Gloria. This is this guy, right there, this team. We went up to Pittodrie, playing Aberdeen reserves, Peter and Sanders up there, the Duke and the Duchess, the Duchess I should say. Peter's got his Hearts tie on and saying, oh, have a look at this, you know. Can't believe it. We get onto the game, and there was a guy playing in the opposite corner to Gary that day, a guy called Neil Cooper. So Neely and Gary, this guy's winning the battle, by the way, would you believe? He's winning the battle, Gary's doing the business, things were okay, for the Hearts we scored a goal. And just a couple of minutes later, boom, scored another goal. It's fucking beauty, you know? So we're sitting there, the game goes on, and I looked at Neely Cooper, but this time, Neely's playing in the middle of the pitch. Silly bastard. He's going a bit like the Tasmanian devil. And I says, magic, this is a right test for this guy. I'll see how he handles it, you know. Whack, Neely catches him right up the balls. Boom. I've got to go on the pitch, so I'm standing with a sponge and the towel. And saying, how am I going to handle this one? You know? Mother and father up in the stand, my mate's son, rolling about hiding out, can't do it. And you know in the football world, there's a guys who'll tell you, you see somebody that's hurt, and you shout out, are you alright, big man? And you're hoping they're saying, aye, but they're not really, they're hurt, so you know what you go on, you see, so I'm shouting to Gary, Gary, you alright? And the ref says, hey, get on the lad, he's hurt, so I goes on. So I decided, between the line and where he was, I've loaned Gary the sponge. You know what he done? Starts wiping his face. I didn't know you went for there, up there, you know? Fuck's sake, man, I said, what are you doing? So just to finish up, we won that game 2-0, by the way. Right? It's been a pleasure. I've been a lucky guy at youth football. I mean, I know it says guys, me. I've been a great admirer of him as a person. Not talking about his work as a football player. As a guy, I've kept in touch with him throughout the years, and I've seen him playing for the Jambos and what have you. I've been a lucky guy. Being able to work with Crabble, John Robertson and all these guys, David Bowen. But this guy here, a superb guy. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you. We move on to 1980-81 season, and on the 18th of June 1980, along with the fellow Salvation teammates Dave Bowen and Ian Westwater, who signed for Hearts. Martin and Bobby Moncur, two people you respect, were responsible for bringing you to Tynecastle, despite offers from elsewhere, including Old Trafford. On August 8, 1980, they introduced you to an important person in your life, a teammate and subsequently your manager, and shall we say mentor, Mr. Alec Doddy MacDonald. You've been made very welcome here today. Can you give us any recollections about some stories about Gary?
I thought it was absolutely hopeless. Hopeless at needed tennis, hopeless at buying drink as usual in Edinburgh folk, hopeless at everything. I think the best thing I ever done was see Vicky. That was the best thing. Well listen, I'm not here to talk, I'm not a talker. I'd just like to say thanks very much to Gary. It brings back great memories for Gary Bowman and Robbo and all that, because I'm back a long, long time. There was great times at Tynecastle, and to be honest with you, there was older players that helped them, Wee Willie, Wee Johnson, Jimmy Bowen. I mean, there's numerous players that helped everybody, but I'm not going to help Gary, he don't. He's still hopeless at easy tennis. Had to take him off yesterday, he's no fit. Had to put another ex-Hearts man on Wee Marv. Gary, you've done magnificent work. It's been a great pleasure knowing you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. You couldn't have thought you were that hopeless, Gary. Signed you again. Anyway, Gary, in season 1981-82, the season's opened with a new manager in the shape of Tony Ford and numerous new teammates, including Roddy MacDonald, Stuart McLaren, Henry Smith and Pat Byrne. More importantly to some, however, a new man at the helm, Mr. Wallace Mercer. Poor results see Mercer and Ford enter the transfer market. Pettigrew and Addison come from Tynedice. Your appearances become limited. You do, however, score your first goals for the first club 11. On September 16, 1981, against Hamilton Accies, you win 2-1. And November 21st, 1981, once again against Hamilton Accies, you win 2-0. And I would just say, if you don't get your fingers out in the play-out, you might be scoring against them next year again. Unfortunately, I was going to introduce Sandy Tapton at this stage, gentlemen, but I do, as I say, unfortunately, has got something on at Ibrox tonight, but he did send his regards. He said he comes from the same background as Gary. He went to Ballgreen Primary and Tynecastle High, and he remembers when he was a Rangers player, he first presented medals to Gary and his teammates at Ballgreen. His words about Gary were, "Gary is Hearts through and through. In fact, if you cut him in half, he would be like a stick of rock, with the letters HEA-RTS right through the middle." The season 1982-83 sees you and the club setting out with one principal target, and that is promotion to the Premier League. Your personal objectives are the same thing, promotion, but more especially regular first 11 football. For yourself and Dave Bowman, however, glory was to beckon as you start for the Scotland under-18 youth side who win the European Youth Championship. In the final you win 3-1 with goals from John Phillippen, Pat Nevin and yourself with the clinching goal after 64 minutes. No other Scottish side since or before had won a competition of this nature. Some in the squad included were Ian Westwater, Paul McStay, Robin Ray, Dave Bowman and Ali Dick. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Willie Bud Johnson to come up and say hello to Gary. Hello to Gary and to pay his respects. Bud, you here? Also, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Dave Bowman to come up, please. David Bowman. David's words about Gary were, he was a credit to the profession and a joy to work beside. And Gary says even though David's working for Mr. Thomas McLean, he still wishes them all the best for the Cup semi-final season on Wednesday. The season 1983-84, there's some more new signings in the shape of Jimmy Bowen, Donald Park and George Your opening game is against St Johnstone at Newton with a 1-0 victory, with Jimmy Bowen being the scorer. During that season you make your 100th appearance for the club, v Clydebank in the League Cup, on the 5th of October 1983. Also during that year, Craig Levine signed for Hearts and made his debut against Rangers at Ibrox. Later in the year, you scored for Alan McDonald's testimonial match against Rangers, and better than ever, Hearts are in Europe. It is the promotion year. (1986-85) now, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a wee bit backward, but it depends who writes it. Gary, you appear in Paris on the 19th of September 1980, and you play against the player you said who was the best player you had ever saw or played against, and his name was Samir Suzic for Paris Saint-Germain. Gary Locke also made his debut on that trip, ladies and gentlemen, but not on the park. You make your own goal scoring history. You become the first player since 1939 to score 4 goals in a cup tie. Could you run us through that, Gary, please?
I think I found my level at that time because I think it was against Inverness Cali. I did score 4 goals that day, and it was a great honour at that time to score 4. That was in one game. That's the most I scored in one game. It's the most I scored in the last 5 or 6 seasons, to be honest.
You also made your 100th league appearance with a 2-1 victory over Hibernian. You scored the first, Big Sandy the second. During that... What he wants to talk about? At the beginning of that season, the pre-season tour of Germany came along. With 5 games played, 4 wins and a drawn match. You scored 2 goals out of the 13 struck by the team. Early season form is mixed, and Hearts suffered a League Cup KO at Pittodrie under unusual circumstances. They had allowed no fans into the match. The Dons win 1-0. The Dons win 1-0. In September, a defeat at Kilbowie results in drastic action. On October the 5th, 1985, yourself and Ian Jardine returned to the side, and a 1-1 draw results. After 8 games, Hearts lie 3rd bottom with only 5 points. On December 21st, after a run of 13 games unbeaten, we topped the league. January 86, see Rangers take an early cup KO at Tynecastle. You score one of the 3 in our 3-2 victory. An ex-JR Colin McAdam gets one also. The April semi-final Scottish Cup victory over Dundee United at Hampden results in a 1-0 victory. Television Television coverage of football restarts with our match against Aberdeen shown live. A disputed penalty gives the Dons a lead, but a late Colquhoun goal keeps the title in sight. The second game v Clydebank at Tynecastle, you score a wonder goal. Hearts win 1-0. Alas, it is not enough. 1 week later at Dens Park, we lose 2-0. Celtic win at Love Street. The title goes west on goal difference. The cup final is an afterthought, and a second defeat ends a strange but exciting season. It had been a wonderful effort, 32 games unbeaten, 23 wins only for illness to play its part. Your 200th overall appearance for the club was against Rangers on the 29th of March 1986. Hearts won 3-1. Graham Souness became the Rangers boss after this game. Season 1987-88 sees the Premier League start, and you sign a 3-year deal at Tynecastle. Your new teammates include Dave McPherson. You have your first full cap v Bulgaria on November 18, 1987, with a 1-0 victory. You scored the goal in the 87th minute as a second half substitute. You become the first Hearts player since December 75 after Jim Kruchak. First Hearts player to score since Alec Young in 1960, when he qualified for the European Championships. You are an Irish hero overnight. I got that a wee bit mixed up there, I think. Your 200th league game against Dunfermline on 24th November 1987. A further Scottish Cup in the company of teammates Henry Smith and John Colquhoun against Scottish Caps, sorry, not Scottish Cup. In the company of teammates Henry Smith and John Colquhoun against Saudi Arabia on March 17, 1988. You have a Scottish Cup defeat against Celtic in the semi-final, 2 goals in the last 3 minutes. Celtic win 2-1. Robbo signs for Newcastle the same day. Goes to Newcastle on his holidays, only to return shortly after. In the season 1988-89 was to be your most successful season as a Hearts player in Europe. A UEFA Cup spot had been attained by the second place finish. You played Bayern Munich, beat them 1-0 and lost 2-0. Ian Ferguson scoring a terrific goal in that home match. The quarter-final defeat by Bayern was greeted with mixed emotion by player and supporter alike. We had proved worthy opponents, been unlucky, but were still proud in defeat. Can you remember much about that game, Gary?
I remember watching the first game because I sat on the bench, but it was a smashing goal. The ladder bumped into coming out of the taxi. We must congratulate being part of St John's side that clinched the championship yesterday. He had a chance that we actually thought should have been a corner. It was saved in Munich, and I think it was a great save. The goalkeeper John Colquhoun had a shot that the goalkeeper saved, and that would probably have seen us through if we'd have got an away goal. But it was a wonderful experience. I mean, I think going back to Paris as well, I think having watched the Hearts during the late 70s, within 5 years of watching them and being part of a team that qualified for Europe, and then within a 10 or 6-7 year period to get to the quarter final of the European Trophy, it was a fabulous achievement, and really that's down to the manager that I'm now working under it, Jürgen.
Thank you, Gary. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Kenny Black to come. I'd like to ask Kenny Black to come up, please. Is it not here? You guys some of your drink? Kenny said about Gary. That Gary and I first crossed swords at under 14 lip when my school team High beat Tynecastle 2-0 in the Scottish Cup final. I've been a nuisance to him ever since. So much so that I was even his best man when he married Vicky on the 29th of June 1988. Gary and I have shared a lot of memorable times both on and off the park. So on behalf of Kenny Black, Gary, he wishes you all the very best for today, and sorry you can't be here. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask the past Vice Chairman of the Heart of Midlothian Football Club, the present Secretary and the past Trainer Manager in the shape of Bilmer Smith, Les Porteous and John Cummings, please. I believe you'd like to say a few words to Gary?
I would, but I don't think there's much left to say now. And after spending about half an hour well in McDonald's, I forgot everything.
So you have been at the bar?
Not drinking. But seriously, I would like to. I've known Gary since 20 odd years, I suppose, since he played for Salvis and took part in the cup that I sponsor in juvenile football. And he was obviously a great young player. Still a great player as far as I'm concerned. Anybody that can play 600 in our games for a club like the Hearts is going to be top class. I just would like to say that it's been a pleasure on behalf of myself and everybody else and the Hearts supporters that can't be here, Gary. I'd like to thank you for the pleasure that you've given us over the years and wish you and your family all the best in the future.
Thank you very much, Gary. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't think Les Porteous, I didn't think Les was going to be able to make it, and he had in fact written a note to Gary. It says, Gary, please accept this note as a plea for you to return to Tynecastle. I find it impossible to do the wages without your prompting. And I am sure mistakes will be made without your help. On a serious note, however, I must point out that only someone who has worked with you over the years would know the full extent of the efforts you have put in on behalf of the Heart of Midlothian. I consider myself to be in the privileged position of being that person, and I know just how much you have contributed to the cause over the last 17 years or so. On many occasions you contributed greatly to the public relations side of the club, never once complaining of the workload which fell on your willing shoulders. Your playing career speaks for itself, and your commitment and achievements need no amplification from me. But I do hope you are justifiably proud of your appearance record, which is unlikely to be surpassed in modern football. How do you replace such a legend? The answer is, of course, you do not. You wait until he finishes his illustrious playing career and hopefully makes his way back to his rightful home at Tynecastle. Les finishes by saying, Beardy could yet be right. After all, Willie Fleming has retired. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call on Mr. Scott Crabbe. Also, I'd like to call on Mr. Chuck Berry. It seems a lot for these guys to come along today, ladies and gentlemen. After all, they do have a very important game coming up midweek. I should wish them all the best. Looking back at your time at Tynecastle, looking back at your time at Tynecastle, can you have anything to say about Gary's? Scott.
Just as professionalism there. You know yourself, at the end of every season, takes about 3 days off. Not serious, by the way. He's right down the middle bank, and he's always encouraging the young boys who would agree walking. He's always pushing the young boys down for some sprint training and that. And his professionalism is unbelievable. All the young boys looked up to him when I first started at Hearts. He's a credit to himself, and he's a Gorgie legend.
Thank you, Scott. At this time, Gary, I have a taped message for you from Tosh McKinley, who said he recalled the 1986 match up at Dens Park. As the Dundee team went out to win, we were looking to qualify in front of Rangers for a European place. From a professional point of view, it was difficult not to sympathise with the Hearts for all that they had done throughout the season. Hearts had the best wishes of most of the profession, and it was hard to take that they actually won nothing that season. As a youth with Dundee, my first recollection of Gary and Dave Bowman was when the Scottish under-18 side hammered us as 5-0 at Dens. I do believe we have a tape message from Tosh.
In 3, 2...
Gary, it's Tosh here. Sorry I can't be with you. Unfortunately, we've got the game today. I was really looking forward to being at your big day, but hope you and Vicky enjoy yourself, and I'll speak to you later on. Thanks very much, mate. Bye-bye.
I'd like to call on Mr. Gordon Lockerby, the Secretary of the Gary Mackay Testimonial Committee. A wee bit of order, ladies and gentlemen, please. Thank you. I'm sure you're going to have a few words to say about that.
Very few words. As you know, I'm not really a man for speaking. It's more the written word is what I'm good at. I had the great honour to be asked by Gary to be the Secretary of his Testimonial Committee. It was chaired by the charismatic Peter, the accountant was Douglas Patterson, and the donkey work was done by Wally Uden, and a guy who I'm sure here is here today, and I might like to come up as well, Billy Ramsey. Bill, are you here? I'm sure that apart from the people that were on the committee, we had tremendous help from 2 other people, George Stewart and the late Kenny McLean. Kenny unfortunately is no longer with us, but it'd be remiss of me not to thank those 2 gentlemen for the work they did. As you well know, their affinities lie in another part of the city, and I think it was tremendous that they gave of their time to Gary. I think it shows the esteem that they, as supporters of another team, held for Gary, and I'd like you to give them a great vote of thanks. George is here, Kenny's son, young Kenny's here, with his son Mark. George and Kenny. A lot of stories that I could tell, but the 2 frightened that Vicky would phone the ball if I sort of counted them. So there's just one thing I'd like to say. I'm sure there's a few people here who have been involved in testimonial committees, and it's a lot of hard work. You have to pack in so many events. You've got your game, your dinner, race night, golf, etc., etc. And there's only so many things you can do, and you try and do them as well as you can to make it a good year for the player. We're trying to fit in as many things that would be for Gary's benefit. But Gary decided, and I don't know if it was the first, but I think it probably was the first time this ever happened, that he wanted one event to be solely for charity, and that was a children's charity. So our time went in for that. And whilst Gary could have benefited personally, all the substantial money that was raised from that event went to children's charity. And I don't think I can say any more about this guy than that.
Gordon did mention Kenny McLean Sr. there, and I have a rather lovely letter from Kenny McLean Jr. here. He says, "Dear Gary, just a few short words on behalf of my family to say what a pleasure it is to have come across such a nice person, an admirable sportsman such as yourself. One of my late father's wishes was that you carried his coffin at his funeral, and I know he had a tremendous admiration for you as a person. It is a fitting tribute to yourself that an event like this is being organised, and I hope you cherish the day for many years to come." We now move on to the 90s, Gary. It is over 10 years since you first signed for the club. Hearts have improved considerably. From the depth of the First Division obscurity, you have been part of the process that saw the club challenge the best in Europe. Your international caps and the European Youth Championship medal were permanent memories of the best days of your career to date. Alas, you had only the runners-up award to show for your tremendous efforts at Tynecastle. One in particular, the Premier League award, will forever be a reminder of how near, yet how so far. Throughout the 90s, you were a permanent fixture in the Hearts' first 11. Under 5 managers and 3 club chairmen, MacDonald, Jardine, together that is, Jordan, Clark, McLean and Jeffries were your managers. The irrepressible Mercer, Robinson and Deans, the club chairman. You were to play most of your matches in the midfield, but for a period under Joe Jordan, you were to occupy an attacking full-back role alongside your friend and teammate Tosh McKinley. You were both well suited to the role, as neither could tackle or run. But both could play football with no little skill and cross a ball into the danger zone. Thomas, alas, has left for pastures new, who are better left unmentioned, while she continued at Tynecastle. With the arrival of Sandy Clark as manager, yourself and Robbo became the veterans, and along with Henry Smith, you were expected to pass on to the young lads, like the boy Locke and his gang, your experience. This you did uncomplainingly and well. On the football part, winners' medals still failed to come your way. With Rangers now so dominant in the league, the cups were your main source of hope. St Mirren and Airdrie twice beat Hearts in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. In the semi-final with St Mirren, you scored what many thought would be a saving goal to earn a replay, only to suffer a late winner from St Mirren, who went on to clinch the trophy. In the case of Airdrie, Alan MacDonald came back to haunt his old team twice. Hearts flirted with the European scene, visiting places such as Bologna, the Bentner, the Dnieper and Prague, to name a few, but never really impressed. In your last season, Red Star Belgrade were to cause grief on the away goal ruling in a UEFA preliminary tie. Just bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, I had to go back to that. I do have some tributes to Gary from various people. The first one being Tom O'Malley, the head teacher at St David's High School, Dalkeith, and the vice chairman from Hibernian Football Club, who has sent a tape message.
Coming to you in 3, 2.
I've known Gary Mackay now for a long number of years, perhaps more than a kid to remember. And I've always regarded Gary as a real gutsy and tenacious opponent. In my experience, has always been a dedicated and committed supporter of youth and juvenile football. That's been one of his main strengths over the years. And all in all, Gary Mackay has been an absolutely excellent ambassador for his club and indeed for his profession as a footballer. So good luck, Gary.
From Jim Jeffries, who said it was a pleasure to have known Gary since he was a kid, starting out at Tynecastle, and I was coming to the end of my own career. Having worked with him over the past couple of seasons, I can well see why his dedication and commitment to the Hearts enabled him to enjoy a fantastic career at Hearts, a career of which he can be justifiably proud. Billy Brown says that Gary Mackay was the most ardent trainer he has ever come across during his professional career. Gary Locke, he has some words in his local dialect here. I will try my best to read it. Gary Locke says, I can have his mind at watching Kai. Watching Kai posing with the blonde streaks in his hair. Our mind is a being in Paris in 1984. Spending all that money and the Hertz got dubbed for nothing. And he was hopeless. We never go out the ground for about an hour. We never go out the ground for about an hour because all they was shouting and bawling. I think they were wanting their money back or something. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Hearts squad here today in the shape of Gary Locke, Stephen Frail, come up lads, Neil Perkins, Helen Clark, Craig Woodley, Gilles Doucet, David Weir, Paul Mitchell, Stu Callaghan, Matt Bradley, Roger McKenzie, Greg Miller, Miles Holder, David McPherson, David Weir, Gary Naismith, Paul Ritchie. Who's last? Opportunity, gentlemen, to congratulate Robbo on achieving the record.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bert's just congratulated Rob. I don't think it'd be fitting for me to sit here this afternoon and not have the chance to say a few words myself. I think the biggest thing for me was yesterday, coming after our game, which was a particularly poor game, or maybe just because I was poor, like I said. I came off the park and the first thing that John Martin said to me was that Robbo had scored, and it was a great thrill for me. The only disappointment was the fact that I wasn't there to be part of it with him, but congratulations.
Gary mentioned John Martin there, ladies and gentlemen, and it's fitting that people like that. So much people think of Gary Mackay when John Martin from other clubs, and I think it's Derek O'Connor here today as well. They've come along to contribute to Gary. Thanks for coming, lads. Gary just with JC's over there. Congratulations yesterday, John, on being promoted to the Premiership. There's one man I had forgot to introduce earlier, and his name is Jimmy Sanderson. I'm sure Jimmy would have a few words to say to Gary.
important thing to say is this man, most of his evenings during the week, he's spent presenting medals, cups. He does things that we don't see, kind of thing. You know, your kids see, but we don't see it. And he's a fabulous guy. Very quickly, I can say, Hearts, he's left the Hearts, he's come to us, and he's going to be a huge player for us. It's their loss, it's our game. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Mackay.
A few words now, Gary, from Sandy Clark, who says it was a great testament to you, Gary. You still look as good, fit and strong a player at Airdrie, and I look forward to seeing you perform in the Premier League next season. There's one very important man I did forget to introduce along with the players, and that, of course, was Harty Harry. Where is Harry? And Gary says Harty Harry has signed more autographs at Tynecastle than he has. Now we have another tape message, Gary, from Eric Milligan, the Lord Provost of Edinburgh.
Gary Mackay has been one of Hearts' finest players in the many years that I have followed the Hearts. But what's made Gary very special has not just been his fine play, but has been his fervour for the club. Gary Mackay has been more than a Hearts player. He has been a Gorgie personality. He has secured for himself a place in the Tynecastle Hall of Fame. A local boy who signed for his local team because that was the only team he wanted to play for, and both on the field and off the field he proved himself in every sense to be a model professional. I only wish, Gary, that I was able to be with you this evening in order to personally shake you by the hand and say thank you. But you and I have known each other for as long as you've been at Tynecastle. We've become the closest of friends, and we will remain the closest of friends. And when you are finished playing around at Airdrie, I'm sure you'll be back on the terraces at Tynecastle where you belong. Cheers.
I'd like to call upon Mr. Leslie Deans, the chairman of the Heart of Midlothian Football Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are certain names in the history of this great club that are enshrined in the legends of the club. The names Bold, Walker, Wartall, but right amongst these names, right at the very top, is the name of Mackay. Gary has been a magnificent servant to this club for many, many years. I actually now don't see Gary as having gone to Airdrie, I see him as having gone on loan to Airdrie. We had a tape message there from someone who's also a good friend of mine, Lord Provost Eric Milligan. And in that message, Eric said he would like to see Gary back someday on the terracings at Tynecastle. Perhaps Eric knows something that I don't when he talks about the terracings. However, I'd go further than that. I believe, and as those of you that know me know, long before I was ever a co-owner or chairman of this club, I was and still am a fervent supporter of this club, like all the rest of you, for over 35 years. And I don't want to see Gary Mackay back on the terracing of Tynecastle, because I believe that Hearts should always always seek to take in people who are Hearts through and through. I'd like to see I hope for his own sake Gary's playing career goes on for a few years yet, but when, as it must eventually come to an end at some time in the future, I hope, Gary, that there's a place back for you within Tynecastle. It's been a privilege for me, and it's been a privilege for me and for everybody else to watch Gary in action all these years at Tynecastle. You've got a record, Gary, the number of games you've played for Hearts, that I'm sure in these change days for football that will never ever be broken, and that is an astonishing and amazing record. To one of the greatest servants that Martin and Lothian, this great club, has ever had, I would ask you please to be upstanding. Lift your glasses please. Mr. Gary Mackay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I've come back because there's something here that I genuinely didn't know about. What we have here, see how they do things without the chairman's knowledge. Excuse me a second. This is being presented to Gary by everybody at Tynecastle to mark his achievements for the club.
And a quite magnificent trophy it is too, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, to call upon the chairman of the Federation of Hearts Supporters Clubs to present Gary with a token of their esteem in which they hold them. Mr. Tom Watson.
Right, good evening, ladies, well, good afternoon, ladies. I'm sorry we sprung the surprise, Gary. You've obviously quite enjoyed it. Over the years, there is no man who has done as much for the Heart of the Morning Football Club, and I have been involved with the Hearts Federation since 1972. And if there was anybody needed to turn up at functions, dinners, etc., who was a man to call? Phone Gary. Gary all day, nobody else all day, because all the secretaries that are in here tonight, they all know that, by God, it's hard to get players to attend functions, etc., etc. But this man, without fear or favour, is absolutely brilliant. Now, at their last Federation meeting, bar one, we didn't know what to give Gary. I mean, right, he's away to Airvale, we will never see him again, etc. He is honorary Vice President of the Federation of Hearts Supporters. Now, the only thing we can do, Gary, to make sure that you do come back, we are installing you, we're in the right place to do it. President of the Federation of Hearts Supporters Club, and we expect to see you at all the meetings. Which is what the delegates do.
Thank you very much, Tom. Gary, you were first introduced to Tynecastle by your grandfather 30 years ago. This afternoon I'd like to welcome Jimmy Munro, unfortunately not accompanied by your biggest fan Alice Ledbetter, that is, too well. Jimmy, are you here today? I do hope you are. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, along with Jimmy, would everyone please welcome the former chairman of the Heart of Midlothian Football Club and the man mainly responsible for the signing of Gary and those other fine young players way back in 1980, Mr. Archie Martin. Archie, I have a microphone here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed an honour for me. Never did I think all these years ago, in all the cold nights, standing at Softon Park, Softon Enclosure, all the grounds, all around Edinburgh, watching Gary, David, John Robertson, we would be celebrating a day like this. It's indeed an honour for me to be here today. The philosophy of the club when I was there was that we were very hard up for cash. What changes? The idea was that we would try and get some young kids in, bring them along for 2 or 3 years, move them along, get some money into the club. But the trick would be to have more young players coming in. Well, worked with David Bowman, worked with John Robertson for a while, but it's taken 17 years to get rid of this man. However, ladies and gentlemen, we must have done something right at that time because, as you heard earlier, it was lovely to be part of it at that time. Rob has achieved this wonderful record that he's got, so we must have done something correct. No Gary's record ever be surpassed. It is indeed an honour to shake your hand as the longest serving player at Tynecastle Football Club. Thank you.
Yes! Thank you very much, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Gary was Mr. Hearts. People would be extremely surprised at the efforts made by Gary on behalf of the club he loves. As well as being a player, Gary was to act as the perfect ambassador with the fans and business community alike. No task was too difficult or demeaning. Visitors to Tynecastle were often given the unofficial Gary Mackay tour guide of the ground, under the care of Mr. Mackay. No, Lockie, you couldn't do the job better. They left happy, and a small contribution to the Youth Development Fund would come out. Gary for a time worked with the commercial section in a marketing capacity, a job he did after training and one to which he was fully committed. When Wallace Mercer agreed to the formation of a 500 club to ensure the rebuilding of Tynecastle, his choice of player representatives were obvious. The club captain, Mr. Craig Levine, and naturally, Mr. Gary Mackay. It was never going to be easy to sell this package, but Gary and his colleagues on the group worked tirelessly. It had been a long and hard job, but when it was built, satisfaction was obvious from the look on Gary's face. Until the very last week at Tynecastle, Gary continued to hand in the small donation that he received and was given for his tours. The youth development receiving £20 in the last week. Mr. Hearts will never be replaced. Gary Mackay is Mr. Hearts. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming along here today to pay this tribute to Gary. And it's a pleasure for me to have been asked to do this, Gary, because from my point of view, you were never ever a natural athlete, but you merely worked your balls off to get there. And, I think it's a tribute to your ability that you have lasted so long in the game, and I am proud, ladies and gentlemen, to call Mr. Mackay a friend. Gary Mackay, this is your life.
This is my story, this is my song. Follow the hearts and you can go on. For some say that Celtic and Rangers are bad, but the boys in Maroon are the best in the world.
I don't know what was the biggest surprise for me, ladies and gentlemen, coming in here and getting told that this is your life, or coming in and seeing Jimmy Sanderson standing at the bar through the back there. But I'll definitely have to catch up with you later on, Jimmy. I can only, at this part of the day, thank everybody that was involved in the organisation. Vicky's given me a quick resume of who was involved. Richard and Dusty from the club shop, who do a fabulous job. Thanks for all the help that you've given me today. I don't know where Robin's there. Robin Beath has worked alongside Richard and Dusty to put this all together, along with Vicky, who's putting a great amount of work, as she always does, to look after me. Ryan and Nicholas, and I'd just like to thank them for the support they've given me over the years. I just wish there had been this many turned up at the testimonial game once here. About the testimony, and I have to warn you because it's. I never got the chance to thank people officially the day of the Hibs game, and that things happen so quickly for me. There's a lot of individuals, guys that I keep in touch with, the likes of Gordon Lockerbie, Billy Ramsey, guys that were such a help to me. We have to turn away again. These guys were an integral part, not just in my testimonial, you're also my career and that, the boost and that with phone calls and that. I still speak to Ian McLeod every Friday night now. He's actually tapped me for comps this morning for the Airdrie game next Saturday because there's no Premier League matches. But these people, there's a lot of people that I will forget to thank, but I can only thank the Hearts supporters. Lockie organised a lovely thing along with his mum and dad down in Morning from 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was lovely to go down there and be thanked by just a small band of the supporters. It was at the Good Companions last night, and I believe it is, even these good lady are there. Thank you for last night, it was a lovely night, and the gift I got was lovely there as well. And I have to go to the Preston Pants Hearts, and that'll probably be the last. That'll probably be the last official function that I'll attend as a Hearts player. I think you do have to realise that it was heartbreaking for many. It has happened now. Football is such that you have to, life is such that you have to move on. So really after and a lot of the supporters clubs have invited me to various things. It's not like they put an end to it, because I'd love to go back to things after my career at Airdrie finishes, but I think you would agree, if I'm going to try and commit myself to Airdrie Football Club, which I probably feel that I haven't done in the playing sense over the last 4 or 5 weeks to the level I would like, if I'm going to commit myself to Airdrie the way I committed myself to Hearts, probably after the Preston fans do, I think if you could respect it, I would like to just concentrate on that. I did wish Bo all the best, and I wish Crabbo, Neil's injured just now, but I wish Crabbo all the best in his replay as well. I can't tell Tosh I wish Crabbo all the best, but I do wish somebody like Crabbo. I look at Craig Levine. I've been very, very fortunate. When you look at the injuries that somebody like Craig Levine suffered, and I sympathise with him. I look at people will tell you there's no maybe cliques is the wrong word, but you do have closer friendships with various people in football clubs. And apart from Robbo getting his goal yesterday, I was also delighted to hear that Stephen Fair got into the last 10 minutes. Mentioned earlier, and it was a nice thing, the fact that after Jim Cruikshank's from 75 or whatever to 87, I was the first Hearts player to be capped. There's been a few since then, and I just hope as well that I spoke about Jules Rusey last night, and Jules got the award today. Jules is not only a lovely a great goalkeeper, but he's also a lovely person, deserved the award he got today. And somebody that I only played with for a short space of time on my time at Tynecastle, and I think it's an absolute liberty that he's not been named in the Scotland squad yet, but welcome to him. I hope he enjoys it in the Scotland. Hope he's in the World Cup squad, because I think that's what my holidays could be next year, so I'm topping the list for tickets. But I would just, apart from supporters clubs, a lot of federations here, there's groups with Brian Hart, Chippy Wood, see Billy Ramsey's crowd up there, there's my in-laws, my own mum and dad, not just supporters of the football club, people that have been great supporters of me. I see a Neil Patterson down there. Patty's actually, I have to tell the Hearts lads, Patty's got a bigger mouth than I have, to be honest. Because I was at the Mill about 4 weeks ago, and as I came through the stair at Shandon, Neil says to me, "Oh, what about that day they're having for you for the Hearts?" I mean, the Hearts. And I said, "I know nothing about it, Neil." I says, "I would rather not know anything about it." I said, "I know that I'm presenting Jules with an award." So I genuinely was totally unaware that this was going to happen today. It is if you want to get anybody slick about me having maybe any slight idea that Neil Patterson's your man, but it is, as I say, it's been a great honour, and the Hearts song that I sung there, until Mr Deans or whoever as the club progresses, until I walk through the door at Tynecastle again in another capacity, I'm sorry, but I'll not be singing that again. Thank you much for the support today, thanks. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. Out with the football side of things, sorry, I know you've got a band and that to come on, but I heard the band earlier on and the noise they made, no that first of all listening to anyway. But out with the football side of things, there's people in your life that play a great part of it, not only just as a learning about the football. Alec MacDonald, and I'll never forget the part he played, not only in my football career, but the part he played in developing me as a person as well as a player. And since then, he's 50 now, but Bert Logan, George who's now with Livingston, but Bert Logan, and we are friends, but the part they've played in my career could never be undervalued. People that give up their time, people that spoke about me giving up time for the Hearts, these people have given up their time all during summers over the last 5-10 years. They got a couple of trips abroad, go to Prague and have a look round the Intercontinental Hotel, which quite appeals to them. But apart from these kind of trips, these guys give up their time, not only to help my career. I think Paul Ritchie, Gary Locke, I think they realise Alan McManus, the improvement they've made for them, and the job that they've done today. I would like you to put your hands together as a final thank you to Mr. Bert Logan.
say, Gary, that's Blackie arrived. You're too late, Blackie. He'll see you at the bar. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Right, ladies and gentlemen, and before we wind up this part of the show, once again, Bob, a job well done, Mr. Eamon Andrews here, Bert Logan, come on, well done, Bert. Well done, Bert. Well done, sir. Absolutely brilliant. Right, folks, we're running a wee